What do I know? I have my own opinions. I hope everyone starts generating their own opinions. And like you say, we have as a necessary ingredient, a mandatory ingredient of our present policy of drug prohibition, a prohibition on discussion. I've been involved with debates where people from the drug czar on down label me as a drug legalizer. Well, they do that intentionally because legalization of drugs tends to have those connotations that you mentioned. You know, I don't care if your 12-year-old daughter buys cocaine in a vending machine across from her junior high school. I mean, silly stuff like that, which of course is flat out not true, but as soon as they label you a drug legalizer, their brains freeze over and they won't talk about it anymore, which is done intentionally. No, it's okay to discuss drug policy. In fact, when I sign my books, Why Our Drug Laws Have Failed, that's usually the entry I put. It's okay to discuss drug policy. Then what are our options? Well, in that book, too, the first half should make people upset because it discusses many of the self-inflicted wounds that we have caused ourselves because of our chosen policy of drug prohibition. But the second half of the book will give you hope because it lists and talks about various options that we have. One option, really important, it began in Liverpool, England, and was taken over by the Swiss. In about the late 1990s, the Swiss government actually realized they have a problem that, regretfully, most other countries in the world do not have. Namely, economically, they're pretty well off. You know, they don't have any down-and-out areas, slums, barrios, whatever you want to call them, but they do have heroin addicts. And so, in Switzerland, it's a lot harder to hide them because they don't have these places like we can to sweep them off into in an area out of sight. So they decided to take on a program. And they copied this program from Dr. John Marks in Liverpool. They started a pilot program in 7 cities in Switzerland in the late 1990s to put in a clinic in the heroin-using areas. The clinic was staffed by 3 people, a registered nurse, a medical doctor, and a social worker. So these people from the clinic would go into the heroin-using community, try to find heroin-abusing people, and bring them into the clinic. Then what would they do? Same thing you or I would do. They'd try to help them with drug treatment. But, as a practical matter, a fact of life, most people that are addicted to heroin either don't think they can get off their drugs or don't want to. So they'd say, okay, if you can satisfy 3 criteria, we have a program for you. The criteria are, number 1, you're at least 22 years of age and have failed traditional drug treatment at least twice. Number 2, you are addicted to heroin. Honestly, not that hard to prove. And number 3, in the future, you will be crime-free and you'll give up your driver's license. If they would do that, they would be placed on the program. What does that mean? It means that you get a prescription for heroin, you can take it to your local pharmacy and have it filled at pharmaceutical prices. Now let's stop for a minute. I want to go through 2 caveats, which I would call in my profession. Number 1 is, this is not a so-called orgy of heroin usage, because remember, there's a medical doctor on this team. And the medical doctor will give you a blood test and find out what your usage, normal usage of heroin is, and then the prescription would be at that level. So it's not enough to give you that euphoria or feeling of happiness or whatever that would be, but it's too much to have you go through withdrawal. As a result, it leaves you, it maintains you at your current level. That, by the way, is why they call it a heroin maintenance program. Okay? Number 2, none of these drugs we can talk about is expensive. I mean, they don't call marijuana a weed for nothing. It'll grow anywhere. It's really cheap. Or even the poppy that goes into the formation of heroin. It's a beautiful flower, by the way, and it will grow anywhere. Example, the National Park Service was growing this heroin poppy at Monticello for years until the DEA found out about it and made them take it out. And I assure you, if it grows in Virginia, it will grow anywhere. So these drugs are cheap. The only reason they're expensive is because they're illegal. Now take it back to Switzerland. That means that even the heaviest using heroin-addicted person, for a maximum of $10 a day, can support his or her habit. By the way, if they can't afford $10 a day, most people can, it is subsidized, but we're talking such a small amount of money, it's really not worth discussion. Okay, what happened in this program? Remember, it's a 3-year pilot program in 7 cities. Less than a year later, the Minister of Health held a press conference in Switzerland and said, we're going to expand this program to every city in our country. We're not going to wait the full 3 years because of look at what we have seen happen. What has he seen? Number one, he has seen that crime in the neighborhood surrounding the clinics plummeted. Now, wait a minute. What's the connection here? Understand, what do people do that are heroin addicted to get the money to support their habits? Not hard to figure out. Burglaries, prostitution, hit you over the head at the ATM when you get money out. The merchants in the neighborhood surrounding the clinics experienced a 7-fold decrease in shoplifting. They were very pleased. Why? Because if you're even arrested, you're off the program. And they know full well if you're off the program, you've got to go back to the hustle. You know, if you have, in our country, and I've sentenced numbers of burglars that had a $200 a day habit. Understand then, I'm going to have to burglarize $2,000 a day of your property in order to take it to a fence to get 10%. So now I have my $200. I have to look for my connection. Who knows if that person will have any drugs or not? Who knows what the quality is? It's a lot of effort. You're way behind the 8 ball. They get away from crime virtually completely. Crime going down is a good thing. Number two, they found that the sales of drugs, the usage of drugs in these neighborhoods also plummeted. What's the connection there? Well, what do people that are drug addicted do to support their habits? Certainly prostitution and burglary, but invariably they will get extra amounts of their drugs and then they will sell them to you, your neighbors, and your children in order to support their habits, right? But remember, if they're even arrested, they're off the program. Therefore, fewer people are selling drugs in the communities, fewer people are buying drugs in the communities. Drug usage has gone down. Now, I don't care what people think philosophically, politically, or otherwise. Everyone would agree crime going down and drug usage going down are good things. Number three, they found that the employment of the people on the program has gone up by 50%. They're starting to take care of themselves. They're getting off welfare. They're paying their taxes. They're taking care of their families. Those are good things. They're starting to lead pretty much normal lives with that one variance. Number four, they found that the health of these people on the program is increasing. It's getting better. Why? Because they have a regular relationship with the medical community. That's a good thing. And so, you know, not only are they injecting the drugs in a less harmful fashion because they're using it under medical supervision, clean needles, etc., but they're also now having these medical teams addressing their medical problems. They're really not so much of a drain on society. Health, they're getting better. And number five, they found that now the people are requesting drug treatment in abnormally large numbers. Why? Because now they have this relationship. Doc, I trust you. Help me take the next step. So in Switzerland, they have now made this program permanent, at least until the year 2014, in every city in their country. I'm going to ask you, anybody listening, can you think of any reason whatsoever why we should not have similar programs in every town or city in our country that has the problem? Because I can't. Can any of you? But there's one reason that people will give. And they think it's the knockout blow, right? Now, first of all, they'll say, oh, you know, you're sending the wrong message to our children. Well, what's the right message? Because today, we're looking at people and saying, go ahead and die. We could help you. We know what the problems are. But we're not going to do it because you fail our drug morality test. That's not the right message, in my opinion, whatsoever. So I say, let's not hide programs like this from our children. Let's take them there. Let's let them speak to these drug-addicted people. What do you think they're going to tell them? Oh, look at me. You know, you want to look like me? I'm only 35. I know I look 60. It's been a hard life. You know, the worst mistake I ever made was starting down this road. You know, I got started because someone gave me a free sample. I thought it was cool. Whatever their reasons would be, they will tell our children that's honest education. That's where we should go. This is an option. This is something that we should do. And no one can tell me that Swiss parents love their children any less than we do. But they see this. They're not any more drug tolerant than we are either. But they see a program that's working. They're becoming managers instead of moralists. These things work.